Hello, everyone. Welcome to our new podcast that we're doing live on YouTube. So great to see you all here.
Yeah, it's awesome. We did one previous YouTube show, and we wanted to do the podcast on YouTube as well. This series has been getting great feedback for us, and we want to kind of invite you to ask questions, to interact with us, and we hope you enjoy it.
And so this class is called What Jealousy Means About You. And we have an emotion series where we're talking about a lot of different emotions. And today we're talking about jealousy, specifically jealousy in romantic relationships. So we're really excited. For those of you who are new to us, I'm Debra Maldonado.
And I'm Dr. Robert Maldonado.
And we are the founders of Creative Mind, and we stand for empowering women in coaching and actually training coaches in our model Creative Mind method based on Jungian psychology, Eastern wisdom, and brain science. So if you like really deep stuff, you're in the right place. So let's start out by just talking about why emotions are important. Why are they important for us to understand and to work with?
Yeah, you know what we've been kind of learning from doing this series is that emotions are at the heart of everything we do as human beings. If you talk about relationships, emotions are at the heart of it. If you talk about success, emotions are at the heart of it. When we say motivation, we're talking about emotions, right? That urgency to move, the passion to move, to create things. All those have to do with emotions. And the crazy thing is, when I was looking at the research that we have in psychology and philosophy, there's very little on it. We don't even have a proper language for emotions.
Yeah. And I think of emotions as it's either they either motivate you or they demotivate you. They're really the fuel for our life and our soul and our experience in life. I mean, if you think about memories, they're stored emotionally. You don't just think about, I got married that day, or I had my first baby, or I got that big promotion. There's an emotion always attached to everything. And we're in this world where we're on digital, online, and we're reading lots of words and experiencing things all in our mind. We forget what we're feeling. We kind of shut ourselves off from our emotional life. And especially, I think women, we are the bearers of emotion. We're the emotional heartbeat of our families and our relationships. And we get in the corporate world and it's, run by all that masculine energy, and we forget to feel and we forget to express our feelings. And so it's really important in all areas of life for emotions.
Right. I remember in your book, Let Love In, you have a chapter on the green-eyed monster,
yes,
which is a reference to Shakespeare, right?
Yes.
What's your takeaway after working, with the book and working with women? Because you coach a lot of great and successful women. What is your takeaway as far as jealousy? What's it doing in relationships?
Well, I think that relationships, the jealousy is really. And we're going to talk about the psychological parts of this, but it really does get you from not connecting with a person or connecting with a new person. So many times I'll be starting to work with someone and they're really jealous of their ex. Their ex has a new boyfriend, or the husband has married a younger woman, and now you're jealous of that woman, taking away your family or whatever, and there's cheating and all those things that we come up with jealousy. Or they experience a jealous boyfriend and they feel like the man is kind of trying to control them and control their time. So there's a lot of ways jealousy shows up in relationships. But I wanted to talk just a little bit more about emotion. And what I noticed is that if we want to make a change in our life, we have to change it emotionally. And when I first started out, I was a hypnotherapist, and we would do a lot of going back to the past, regressions, and let me go back to what happened to me. And a lot of people were making sense of, that happened to me, and that's why I do this. But what I noticed is that after I did hundreds of them, I realized the story about what happened to us didn't really matter. It was more about the emotional tone and that hook that keeps us in the past. And so I see jealousy as really a way, it's giving us some kind of like insight, something like it's waking us up to something. So every emotion is useful. And so that we're going to talk about today of how to make it useful and what it means about you.
Right.
So
right.
Rob, what is in your research? You've done so much research on emotions and especially jealousy. What did you find with, what are some of the takeaways from that?
What I like to do is break it down into the biological, the psychological, and then the kind of the spiritual and social elements of it. If we look at the ancient Greeks had it right.
Mm-hmm.
They had a god for all these powerful emotions that we feel, right? From love to jealousy to envy to friendliness, everything they saw as this powerful force that lives in the psyche.
Mm-hmm.
So their god of jealousy was Tonus, the Greek god of jealousy. And of course, he had many wives, but he would kill them off because of his jealousy.
Oh, okay.
So that was kind of the story behind the god.
Mm-hmm.
And you see this in Greek and later on in Shakespeare as well, where he presents this internal power as leading to aggression, but also kind of playing into the whole drama of relationships.
Mm.
So biologically, what's going on is this. Deep in our brain, when we get jealous, when we experience jealousy, it's activating these centers in the brain that have to do with social bonding and social pain.
Wow.
Right?
So the combination of bonding and pain.
And
love is pain, right?
But isn't that jealousy that it's about bonding, but it's about feeling social pain, meaning that you feel that you're going to be embarrassed, you're going to be humiliated, you're going to look bad
or be lost
in front of others, or
like you lose that bond.
Exactly, and lose the bond.
See, I think jealousy is that loss of bond. Like you kind of, when you feel jealous toward a person, another person, you lose that bond, and that causes that pain. Like you have this like marriage or relationship, or even you're in your mind, like that's my man, and then someone else comes in, or you're even, just meeting someone, and then another woman comes in and interrupts that bond. It's a painful thing because you feel rejected. It brings up all these emotions. But I also want to say too, that a lot of people confuse, before we go deeper into jealousy, a lot of people confuse jealousy with envy. And when a lot of people will say, oh, I'm jealous of that woman, she's, has this, or, the kind of jealous of what other people have, but that's more envy. Jealousy, like you said, is the bonding. So I just wanted to
it's a threat to the bond.
Threat to the bond, yes.
Absolutely.
So when you feel that you're connected with someone, and then that bond is threatened, they're going to leave me, or they're choosing another partner above me. And so biologically, why did that serve us to have this kind of mechanism in our brain as cavemen and as, early humans? Why do we build that into our psyche?
Yeah, I mean, both jealousy and envy go back to our animal history. Recent research with monkeys, it shows that if you give a monkey a grape and another monkey a piece of celery or something that, the monkey that you give the celery to will become envious of the other monkey and will rebel against the trainer and all that stuff. So it's built into our genes and into our brain.
Is it a sense of equality? Like kind of like you get your, what's yours, what's mine?
Absolutely. And then, of course, it has to do with mate selection and mate maintaining that mating bond with a particular mate, because you have to protect that bond against intruders, against potential rivals and all that. So it's built in deeply into our brain structure and our genes. But then the human imagination takes it to a whole other
Oh no, we have the feeling, and then the story starts to emerge.
Yes, because as humans, we're not just animals reacting to nature in a way. We also have this incredible psychology. And of course, we take a Jungian approach to jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
So at the psychological level, what happens when you're feeling jealous is that you're projecting.
Mm.
You're projecting your shadow, your unconscious mind onto the rival.
So let's back up a little bit. So a lot of people don't know what the shadow is. So we have this persona, this identity that we identify with, and then what's not conscious, what we push away, we put in what Carl Jung, this was psychologist, called the shadow.
Mm-hmm.
And so we project that out onto other people, which is kind of a weird thing, is the things that we reject about ourselves, we project out. And a lot of people think, well, we push away our dark side, but we're really pushing away all the things that maybe that we don't think we deserve or that we don't think we can have. So if you feel, for example, if you feel like unloved or unlovable on a conscious level, like you feel like I'm not worthy, the person that gets your man or your partner moves on to the other woman or cheats on you with another woman, you start to think, that woman has something I don't have. And so we become jealous of them, but we're really seeing our desire, our secret desire to be loved. And so I think in a way, this is really powerful for you. If you feel that way, you have to ask yourself, why am I attracted to someone who's not giving me that? And so a lot of us are comfortable attracting people, like we fit together like puzzle pieces, people that don't love us back. I want to tell you a story about this before we move on. Right before I met you, like about a year before I met you, everything happened.
Is this why you wrote the chapter on the Green Eye Monster?
No, that wasn't me. I wasn't that human. But I was at it was really one of the most profound moments of my life. It was right before I got laid off from my corporate job. But I was dating this guy, long distance. We all went on a skiing trip, and my girlfriends were with me, his friends, and we were spending the day together. And then we were all supposed to meet up at this bar, or we were all supposed to go out, and he was supposed to call me. So I was like waiting by the phone for him to meet us so I could tell him where we were. And I'm looking, and I'm thinking, well, he's with his friends. I'm just going to like be cool about it. And then I look in the mirror of the bar and I look across, and then I see him there. He never called me. He's out and he's with another woman. And I'm here this weekend with him and his friends and my friends. And I was like, oh my God. And at first I got that jealousy, right? Who is this woman? That's my man. But then I heard this very, very powerful voice. And I heard 3 words: you deserve more. And it was like something shifted in me. I mean, I don't know what it was, divine intervention, but it was like, instead of chasing that green-eyed monster and trying to feel bad that this guy is going after someone, I started saying, why do I even like this person? So I think jealousy in a way can serve us because it wakes us up to say, the bond that you think is there, this imaginary bond, is not there. Or you could be imagining that they're cheating too, but it's kind of like showing you where your mind is not feeling the bond. And so you're either not communicating your needs to the person, or you're not taking care of yourself, and you're putting yourself in situations, or if you keep attracting that situation, you're actually seeing, like in my mind, my shadow was the woman who the guy paid attention to. So if I'm always jealous, I'm like, wait a minute, everyone else gets attention but me. Maybe I need to look at that. And so that's the gift. It's like going a little deeper instead of just pushing it away and finding another person that's not going to cheat or that loves you. You have to kind of say, why am I creating this? And it starts with an emotion of not being deserving of it. And so you're going to keep, it's like a magnet. It keeps bringing it up. And so if you see a pattern of jealousy in your life or having jealous people, it's something about that interruption with bonding and pain.
Absolutely.
So you like my story?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, there you see that we reacted from this biology that we have, but then the psychology, the narrative of who we are and what's going on socially kind of kicks in, and that's how we make sense of it. And that's really how we use all emotions, except that, like we were saying, that there's not a good language for how to process that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it, what we've seen out there, is about managing the emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And management is not empowerment.
Yeah.
It's just kind of getting back to the status quo, right? Getting back to calming yourself and all that stuff.
Well, most of the common things you'll hear is just talk to yourself. You're lovable. You're good enough. Think positive. You know, you're you deserve more was a great shift, but that didn't completely change me. It was interrupted the pattern. And we need to kind of say, well, how do we cultivate the feeling of deserving more, right? Instead of just cognitively telling ourselves that and not dealing with the emotion. And we also have to deal with the pain. We have to deal with what is this feeling of not that broken bond? Like, what is that feeling, and examine it. And you're not trying to get rid of it, but you're trying to like make sense of what is happening and pay attention to your body and what's going on, because that's really kind of, it's the signal to what's directing your life, what's giving you the results.
Yeah. So here's a basic definition for jealousy. At the psychological level, right? Now we're not talking about the brain structures, but kind of the narrative that we create.
Mm-hmm.
So you are assuming that someone else is receiving the attention, love, and adoration that you want for yourself.
Ooh, yeah. And really, if you're feeling like, for me, I wasn't giving enough love to myself. I was projecting all the power onto the man. He's going to be the one to love me. He's the one who's going to give me all the goods. And I wasn't giving myself like, I'm awesome. You know, he should be lucky to have me, and not in a very, pompous way, but really feel that. Like, you really have to feel that emotionally that you're, like you said, what did you say that you want for yourself? You're giving that attention and love for yourself. I love that.
Yeah. So you think your partner is essentially paying too much attention to the other person, right? The potential rival.
Yes.
Now, the ordinary story is that it points to insecurity, right? Like, that's what most therapists, psychologists, coaches would say.
Be more confident, right?
Yeah, be more confident, because it's showing your insecurity. And in a sense it is, right? But we go deeper, because what it's pointing to, as far as your shadow, is that blind spot that you have.
Mm-hmm.
You're projecting the things that you push away in your personality into the shadow onto the rival.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying he or she has those qualities that I don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore my mate is paying attention to that, right? But it's your own projection.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a great opportunity to see that blind spot, in essence, in the projection that you're seeing in the other rival.
So a great exercise for you is to think about that. Think about what is what's the jealousy about? Is it about, and how much love and attention and acknowledgement am I giving to myself? And why am I seeking it through another person? A lot of times we bond with another person, and then we feel like that bond defines us. So when especially if we get divorced, you get married and you think, well, this bond, I'm like his woman now, and he's my man, and that bond defines you. And then a lot of women, when we work with, when they break up, or even as a couple, you break up, and as a woman, you say, well, what am I? What am I? Who am I? I used to be Mrs. Blank or his girlfriend, and now I'm this like person floating in the middle of the ocean, like flailing my arms, like trying to keep above the waves. It's kind of like this disconnection and that pain of separation. And also too, when we bond with people, it's like our energies get mixed up, our emotional energy kind of, bonds with the person, and then we're used to their energy around us. And when we separate, we actually feel this kind of like something's missing. And really their emotions are our emotions, but in a certain ego level, we're kind of seeing them separate. And then we feel like a piece of us is taken away. And then some other woman has taken our piece, a piece of us. And so we need to use jealousy as a way to bring us back to wholeness, as our whole self, and be self-loved, self-empowered.
I never asked you this, but
ask me.
From your book experience and from coaching women, Are women more jealous than men, do you think? Or
Actually, I think men are more jealous than
you
women.
think so?
Yeah, I think men are more possessive, and that's a form of jealousy. And a lot of times, I think men are. I think women can be jealous because we want the relationship, but men, I think, are more possessive and more when they're in a relationship, they're kind of over assuming, like afraid the woman's going to leave, where a woman is more pining over the guy after he leaves. So,
and I mean, jealousy is such a poison, or it can be a poison in relationships.
Yes.
Why do you think that is? I mean, how do you see it? How does it break people apart?
Well, I think what happens is that, well, first of all, if you're having this jealous thing, and like my experience in the bar, I couldn't talk to that person. I had to deal with myself. That's one thing. But if you're in a relationship and then you are feeling like, John's spending a lot of time with Becky at work, he's going to lunch with her every day. He talks about her all the time. And they're starting to have this, like a lot of women say their husbands have an emotional relationship, or their boyfriends have an emotional relationship with a woman at work. And it comes down to how close do you feel your bond is? And do you feel it threatened? Because for you, I mean, we work with beautiful women all the time, and gorgeous, intelligent, brilliant women. I'm never jealous of you, like fearful that you're going to go leave me for one of these women, which they're very, very awesome. Not that they would hit on you or anything, but I don't have that jealousy because I trust our bond. And I think if you don't trust the bond, you need better communication. You need to ask yourself, like, what's happening, but also checking in and saying, are you acknowledging yourself? And that's really important. It's like understanding yourself. So the last part is the spiritual element, because we talked about the biological, we talked about the shadow, and then what's the spiritual? And then we'll get to some of the questions here on the feed. Okay.
Now it's interesting, in the central myth of Judeo-Christian culture, the West, there's this idea of a jealous God. So that's one aspect of it, that you shall have no other gods before me, right? And in essence, God is jealous in the sense that he demands loyalty. And if you go off and worship cows or money or the world, he's jealous. He's going to punish you, or he's going to retaliate against you in a sense. So that's the central myth. I mean, and you can see why humans developed that mythology, because it reflects a lot of the way we react to each other, and we think about loyalty, and especially in relationships. But there's deeper elements, in our Jungian model, we kind of look at mythology a little bit deeper, and we say, well, what is it saying about our own psychology and the way we approach spirituality? That jealousy, what is that about? If you look at the spiritual disciplines around the world, what they all have in common is that they insist that you follow the path. That you stay loyal to the path. And it has a very good function, because what it means is that you're able to really develop spiritually on that path without bringing in a lot of different things.
Which is what we find. There's so much out there with personal development that we feel people are having a smorgasbord of a lot of different theories. And I remember when I first started, you and I first started working together, I was just taking all this stuff I learned and hypnotherapy school, and there were, and other things I've learned, and I was trying to pull it all together. And you were like, well, what model are you following? And there's a lot of that out there, a lot of like untrained people teaching what they know and what they read in books and what they learned from big teachers. And they're kind of like putting it all together and repackaging it, but it doesn't have that foundation. And then a lot of people end up doing a lot of different things and getting confused and all. And so we want to, the whole idea is that the model that you're following should have a consistency to it. And it has to have a spiritual consistency. And the foundation is, how do you see reality, and how do you see, yourself, and what do you see about, your life, and what are the main philosophies that you follow versus, how to have a better life on the surface. It's, you have to ask yourself, what philosophy do I follow? And so with the God, you know, what I see is that also that we, the jealous God, they say, "Thou shalt not have any gods before me," means that we're putting material, you know, things that we want against the divine desire. And so we're kind of choosing, like, a lot. I see so many people use spiritual practices to get money. I'm going to use spiritual practices and divine thing to get a relationship. And you're kind of like saying, God, this is really important. I'm going to use you for this big important thing. Here's how we flip it. We use our desire for relationship, our desire for money, our desire for material things to know ourselves and our divine self. So you're reversing that kind of, you're putting the divine as the goal, your awareness as a goal versus the things. And the things will show up for you, but if you put them above your divine self, you're putting everything out there above you, of who you are, of your true self. And that's why we feel powerless in the world. In a nutshell.
And then, you know, we were saying, or we mentioned that we don't really have a good language to talk about emotions, and we're really not taught how to think about emotions and how to feel them, how to express them. If you notice, our educational system is all focused on cognition, how to think, how to solve problems through logic and all that. Here's a couple of key concepts that will help you in understanding any emotion, whether it be jealousy or love. One of them is called emotional valence. Now, emotional valence, what that means is whether we attribute negativity or positivity to an emotion. You know, is it on the scale of positive and negative? Where does it fall? Because as
anger could be great, you know, because you're like, finally, I'm angry. You know, I'm angry enough to make a decision and move on, versus tolerance.
Yes, and so there are no purely negative emotions and positive emotions like we're used to talking about. You know, that's a negative emotion, or this is a positive emotion. It has to do with the valence. All emotions can be either positive or negative depending on their valence. The other one is intensity, and that one is easy to understand, right? If an emotion has a low intensity to it, it's not really going to motivate you to act. It's not going to be emotive. But if it has a high intensity, it motivates you, right, to act, either depending on the valence, either in a negative way, as aggression or acting out, or in a positive way to construct something, to make changes in your life. So that's hopefully some useful tools for people to start thinking about emotions and not in the typical black and white term of negative and positive, but more in, does it have what kind of valence does this emotion have, and what is the intensity of it? And
depending on our growth, how we see it, because maybe initially we think anger's bad, I'm going to push it away. And then we start to see a change because the anger becomes a fuel for us to make change. It's fuel for saying no. It's fuel for standing up for ourselves and passion. And so it, you know, turns to the other way. So we have to really talk about that as well. And then what was the other one? You said there were two things?
Valence and intensity.
Intensity, okay. So if we feel a lot of anger, it could sometimes override our logic. If we feel not enough, just like jealousy, it could just kind of blind us. And so when emotion is really intense, we really can't think rationally. And so I always say to people, when you're about to make an important decision, don't make it out of emotion. You know, like when you're highly emotional, because if you're highly emotional, all rationality will go away. And what you're really doing is you're making a decision based on your conditioning. You're not making the decision to move forward. So you have to kind of settle down that emotion and lower the intensity, get some space for it before you make a decision. And so with jealousy, I just want to end with this idea that it is something that we can use to measure our level of connection with the person that we're jealous of, and ask ourselves, is this the kind of relationship I want to be in? Is like in this situation what I told you about in Aspen, actually, it was more like, this isn't the bond I want. But other times it's like, am I misinterpreting what our bond is? Am I not communicating? Is my mind going into imagination and being jealous of something that's not even real? And it's about communication. So it's like we start to open up. And I love the idea that it's really showing us that we're wishing that love and affection and attention is going outward, and it's not going inward.
Absolutely.
So do you want to go to some questions?
Let's do some questions.
Okay. A common question we get is, I'm afraid of other people being jealous of me, so I stay small and hide my brightness. What would be the persona versus shadow at play?
Yeah, that's a great question. And here we see the impact of culture playing in.
Mm-hmm.
In some cultures, it's more a taboo to stand out and to kind of assert your power and your brilliance and your talents. That's considered a no-no. I mean, if you do that, you're risking social ridicule and rejection. And in other cultures, it's actually applauded. You're the person that states their power and their brilliance and their talents is considered a leader, or this is someone to emulate, and why can't you be like your sister Kate, and those kind of things. So, but it is a very real phenomena that we are often afraid to express our intelligence, our brilliance, our talents.
It's more envy, though, that she's talking about than jealousy.
Yes.
Because it's more, we're afraid people will envy us.
That's true. And even in relationships, people can envy a relationship.
Oh yeah.
And it's not necessarily jealousy. Jealousy plays in more on the side of the couple, because then the couple has to protect that bond. And when there's a suitor, or let's say a rival, a possible rival, and here's the thing, that it's either real or perceived. And a lot of jealousy is actually just perceived, right?
Yes.
That we all know people that they're jealous of everyone that comes into. They're
highly jealous.
Yeah,
a highly jealous person is someone, or envy. Well, jealous is always, like with friends too. We can be jealous. Like, I have a new best friend, and your best friend finds another friend. It's a great story of that is Bridesmaids. Remember that movie where she was, her best friend was getting married, and then the new friend comes in, and it's all that jealousy, that happens. And do you remember that movie? No.
No.
Okay. She bakes the cake, and the other girl's sending her to Paris, and I don't know. It's a great funny story for women. We get jealous. Who's in the wedding and who's not, and that type of thing. So
back to the question then. Let's say, so I stay small and hide my brightness. What would be the persona versus the shadow at play here? Yeah, so if you, let's say, if you reject or you hide your brilliance because your persona is one of meekness, of not standing out, like humbleness, right? But it's kind of a false humbleness. You're pushing away your brilliance into the shadow. So that brilliance would remain in your shadow, because it really doesn't go anywhere. Anything we push away about ourselves does not disappear. It simply goes into the unconscious. So that would be your shadow, essentially. That in your shadow, you are the brilliant person who is able to express and emote all that power, but in your persona, you remain small. And do you know why that is? Because if you feel that other people feel that about you, you actually feel that about people that have more than you, that shine. You actually, I mean, you might not be conscious of it, but if you're afraid to shine, you probably have a negative view of people who shine. So it's that kind of feeling. And the same thing with love. If you're jealous of that other woman in that relationship, maybe you secretly don't want to be
the woman in relationship in a way. There's some kind of, it's more appealing to your ego to be the woman who's the victim, that is always heartbroken, and you don't want to be the one. I know a lot of people say, they met their person, and their best friend is still single, and they're kind of afraid to talk about their new boyfriend because their best friend is still single, and they don't want to make her feel bad. They don't want to be happy. Like the friend wouldn't be happy for them. The friend would be envious of them. So they kind of like not talk about it, and it ruins the bond with the friendship. So a lot of it is really that we have to know that wherever we fear other people think of us, we feel that way too about other people that have more than us. So as we measure the yardstick, we measure others, we measure ourselves. So it always comes back to us again. So I think another thing to practice is just, I do this a lot with relationships too. A lot of women that are single and they see other people and they're envious of the couples, to say that I'm so happy for them. That's what I'm going to get. And that's what I'm going to receive. And that's what I'm moving toward. And instead of feeling that that kind of resentment or it's not me, you identify with them saying, that's me too. I'm the woman in love too. It's happening. It's on its way. Okay. One more thing I wanted to just mention is that we have a free gift for you guys. We have a whole emotional series called How Negative Emotions Can Change Your Life. And it's a free course. And we're going to be posting that in the comments below, in the show notes below. So please make sure you go to the link below and sign up. It's absolutely free. So a little free gift for you. Any more questions, please post them in the group. What is the difference between jealousy versus admiration after you explain envy versus jealousy? It seems envy, jealousy, and admiration are all different levels of something perception of our own power.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
There's a lot of there.
Yeah. So admiration is I think admiration is a positive. Think of admiration and envy are the same thing, but one has more of a positive, like, oh, I want to be like that person. And I can be like that person. Like I admire this, a lot of people admire Brene Brown and they admire her and they think, wow, I'd like to be like her. I have the TED Talk and a best-selling book as an example, or Sarah Blakely, I admire her. Envy is, I don't think I admire her, but I don't think I can have what she has. So we envy them. We feel this kind of disconnection from ourselves. Admiration is, we admire them and we have like a positive goal toward that. Envy is when we feel this kind of like, why did they get all the attention? Why does she have a TED Talk and I don't have a TED Talk? Why does she, have a successful business? Why does she get to get married and I have to stay single? That's that thing. But admiration is, a lot of people tell us, they say, I love your relationship, like the two of us. Like, wow, I'd love to have a relationship like you have with Dr. Rob. That's admiration. Envy is, oh my God, like look at Debbie and Rob. They're so smug, that's not real, that kind of thing. That would be envy.
Yeah. And that plays into that valence we were talking about. Mm-hmm. So admiration and envy, we could say are on the same scale, but the valence, towards admiration is positive or constructive. And the valence towards envy would be destructive.
Yes.
And then the other part was what is
different levels of perception of our own power.
Yes.
Well, that's what I was saying, is that the perception is that jealousy, envy is, I don't have the power to have that. Admiration is, it's almost like you're not competing with the person. You're going, wow, I really admire them. I'm not trying to compete with them. You may or may not want what they have, but you may admire them. You can admire someone, like you can admire Oprah, but you don't want to have a TV show and be a billionaire. Or you can admire her and say, I want to be like her. But the envy is more like that kind of, it's not jealousy, but it's kind of like why do they get to have it and not me? It's like we don't identify or celebrate them because we feel lack in ourselves. And so when we feel envy for someone, I want you to see if you could shift that to admiration and see, why do I don't feel that I can have the same thing? And it's true. Anyone that you see that you admire has the relationship you want, has the love, the success you want. If you can see them and perceive them, that's a part of you already. It's just the envy means that you don't identify with it. It's in your shadow. It's like unconscious that that's your potential. So everyone that has something you have is a hidden potential within yourself.
Yeah. And so if you're struggling with jealousy or envy, here's a simple way to work with this. It's called non-attachment. Now, non-attachment, a lot of people mistake it for detachment. Now, detachment, we can say is, I don't care, right? And a lot of people use that technique of, okay, I don't care. If this relationship is causing me too much jealousy, I'm just gonna reject it and say, I don't care anymore, right? And kind of break it up. But there are ways to work with that powerful God of jealousy without breaking off the relationship. Non-attachment is the way. Non-attachment means that you stay engaged in the relationship, but you're dropping the attachment to getting a certain result. And that certain result, when there's jealousy, is that you want to control the person. You want to control their attention and always have that attention.
Please love me.
You.
Give me the attention.
Yes, that's right. And that control, that wanting to control the person is at the heart of jealousy, right? That if you can't control them, you get angry, you get frustrated, or you just break it off. Non-attachment allows us to stay in whatever's going on despite the intense emotion and still work with it. What we're doing is we're focusing on the action. In other words, we're asking ourselves, well, what do I need to do to maintain this relationship or to get it to a better place? And we usually know what we need to do as far as the actions to take. But in attachment, we're focused on the results, on getting the results. And if we don't get the results, we throw a hissy fit. We throw a tantrum. When we use non-attachment, we focus on the action and we drop the desire for the results.
And what does that look like?
That means that the action pretty much will look the same. We're staying engaged and we're speaking our mind. We're saying what we need or whatever we need to do to make that relationship better. But we're not depending on the outcome, meaning that if the person...
so it's kind of like manipulation. A lot of times we feel we're communicating, but we're really manipulating. And when we manipulate, we're saying things that are going to maybe hurt the other person or make them feel guilty. We're trying to tell them you need to love me. But when we're not attached, we really come from a place of love. And if they're meant to be with us, they're going to be with us. And it's that whole when you try to hang on to someone and pull them in, you get the opposite result. If there's a lot of jealousy, or you experience a lot of jealousy in your relationships from yourself, that you need to kind of go inside. It's not about the other person; it's more about what's going on with you. And then you need to have the ability to approach them with a communication of love and non-attachment, meaning, if you don't love me, that's okay. I want you to be happy, but I also want to be with someone who loves me. I mean, it's such a different way. Like, why are you giving all the power to this one person to make you feel good? It's a very powerless place to be in relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, we have someone's asking about our YouTube live schedule. We will be coming live every Friday. This time, our Friday lunch. If you want to spend time with us, we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of different topics on personal development, empowerment for women, emotions, and really relationships. And if you have questions, you can come post them below before we go, or just post them later. We'll get back to you on that. And also just remember that we do have a free course for you to download. It's and have access to. It's called How Negative Emotions Can Change Your Life. And they're really not negative. We put the negative in quotes. And it's a really great series on anger, on passion, on we talk about joy, we talk about love, we talk about fear, all those emotions. And so we're giving you the biological, psychological, and the spiritual aspects of all these emotions. So you can really get to know them in a deeper way, and then know yourself in a deeper way.
That's right. And we're doing an event in Austin.
Yes.
Focused on emotions.
Yes,
well.
Emotional wisdom. So we're going to be in Austin, Texas in January. But find out more about it. If you sign up for our free course, we'll get you going with that as well. And we'll see you next week on our live YouTube Live and show Creative Mind Living. And we are so excited to be here. And if you're listening to us on the podcast, come check us out as well. We have a podcast that this will be streaming on as well.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.